didn't know I had visitors. Well, you're very welcome to my little cottage. Ooh. It's always nice to have company. My name is Miss Poppy, and I'm very pleased to meet you. Oh, but I don't know your names. Wait a minute. I know. I'll count to 3, and after 3, you tell me your names nice and loud. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, good. So now we've been properly introduced and we're all best friends. I was just about to have a lovely cup of tea and read some Christmas stories. So I'm glad you're here because now I can read them to you. But first things first. A nice cup of tea. There's my teapot. Where's the cup? Ha! My friend Santa likes a good cup of tea. And my friend Santa also likes a Christmas joke. Would you like to hear Santa's favourite Christmas joke? Well, how do snowmen get around town? They ride on their icicles. Oh, I love snowmen. Some of my best friends are snowmen and snow ladies. I know a poem about a very silly snowman. Would you like to hear it? This is called A Snowman's Wishes. Once there was a snowman who lived outside the door. He wished that he could come inside and run around the floor. He wished that he could warm himself before the fire so red. He wished that he could climb up on a big, comfy bed. So he called to the north wind, "Come and help me, hey, for I am very freezing standing out here all day." The north wind came along and blew him in the door. And now there's nothing left of him but a puddle on the floor. Well, I think it's time for a Christmas story. Let's see. Now, which one shall we have? Let me see. Oh, what about this one? It's called The Elves and the Shoemaker. So, once upon a time, oh, this is going to be a good one. All the good ones start with once upon a time. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a hard-working shoeman who made the most beautiful shoes for his customers. And with the leather left over, he made little shoes for the poor children in his village. One day, a great storm came to the village, and the rain made a mighty river and washed away the shoemaker's beautiful shoes. Well, after many months of cleaning and repairing his shop, the shoemaker realised that he only had enough money left to buy leather to make one pair of shoes. So, in the evening, he cut the leather into the shape of the shoes and he left his work on the table to finish in the morning. As he went to sleep, he made a wish that he could somehow find a way to earn some more money to look after his family. In the morning, just as he was about to sit down to work, he saw the 2 shoes standing quite finished on his workbench. Well, this had never happened before, and the shoemaker was surprised and shocked, and he didn't know what to think. He picked up the shoes to look at them more closely, and he saw that they were so neatly made that there was not one single stitch that was bad in them. "What a beautiful job," he said. "It must be magic." The shoemaker put the shoes in his shop window, and very soon a customer came into the shop. "What a beautiful pair of shoes," said the customer, and tried them on straight away. Well, he was so pleased that the shoes fitted him perfectly that he bought them, and he even paid twice the usual price. Well, the shoemaker was delighted, and off he went to market, because now he had enough money to buy leather to make 2 pairs of shoes. So that night, he cut his leather into the shape of the shoes and left his work on the table again to finish in the morning. The next day, just as he was about to sit down to work, he saw that now there were 2 pairs of shoes, beautifully made, standing there quite finished on his workbench. "It definitely is magic," he said. So he put the shoes in his shop window, and he was delighted that again they sold straight away. And his customers were so delighted that they paid twice the price again. So now the shoemaker had enough money to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. And so this went on. Each night he cut out the leather. Each morning he found that there were beautifully made shoes waiting for him. Very soon the shoemaker became quite rich and was able again to provide shoes for the poor children in the village. But now he was curious to know how the shoemaking magic worked. So one evening, just before Christmas, the shoemaker said to his wife, "Let's stay up tonight and see the magic happening." Of course, the shoemaker's wife loved this idea. She was just as curious to see the magic as her husband was. So that night, instead of going to bed at 10 o'clock, they hid themselves in a corner of the shoemaker's workroom and waited. They waited a long time, and they were getting very tired when the clock struck midnight, and suddenly 2 little elves came in through the window. They were tiny little fellows dressed in thin rags with no shoes on their feet. Mr. and Mrs. Shoemaker were flabbergasted. They watched as the elves sat down at the shoemaker's workbench and took the pieces of leather that the shoemaker had cut. They saw the elves begin to stitch and sew and hammer the leather so skillfully and so quickly with their little fingers that Mr. and Mrs. Shoemaker could not believe their eyes. Once the shoes were finished, the little elves disappeared through the window as quickly as they had arrived. Mr. and Mrs. Shoemaker went sleepily to bed, shaking their heads, not quite believing what they'd seen. The next morning at breakfast, they made a plan. "The little elves have made us rich, and we really must show our thanks," they said. "Those poor little things run about wearing just thin rags and no shoes. I will make them little shirts, coats, vests and trousers, and knit both of them a pair of stockings," said the shoemaker's wife. "And I will make them 2 little pairs of shoes to keep their feet warm," said the shoemaker. So, instead of cutting leather for shoes, Mr. and Mrs. Shoemaker worked all day long to make the little elves their clothes and shoes. When everything was ready, they laid out the presents on the table and hid themselves in the corner of the workroom again to see what the little elves would do. Once again, at midnight, the elves crept in through the window, ready to go to work. But they didn't find any leather to make shoes. Instead, they found 2 little piles of warm clothes and shoes that Mr. and Mrs. Shoemaker had left for them, and a note which said Thank you, little elves, for helping us in our time of need. Well, the elves were delighted and danced around the workshop, putting on their new clothes and shoes. And at last, they danced out of the window and disappeared into the night. And from that time on, they came no more to the shoemaker's shop, because they knew that their job was done. The shoemaker had his business back, and he was happy that he could once again make shoes for the poor little children of the village. The end. Oh, I do like a happy ending. Well, before we get on to the next story, I've got some presents to wrap. Can you see what these are? Carrots. And who do you think they're for? Santa's reindeer. Yes, a little present for Santa's reindeer. So I'm going to put them in a little bag and pop them there, ready for Santa to come and collect. Oh, and I better write them a little tag. So let's think, all of the names of the reindeer. Who have we got? We've got Dasher, Prancer, Vixen, Cupid, Donna, Comet, Blitzen, and, oh, what's the last one called? The one with the red nose. Oh, what's his name? Oh, I know it. It's Randolph the Rudy Doody. No, that's not it, is it? No. Wait a minute. It's Gordon the Glow Nose. No, it's not. What are you saying? Do you know? Oh, Rudolph. Of course it's Rudolph. Oh, I should remember that, because Rudolph has his own song, doesn't he? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer has a very shiny bottom. Has a very shiny nose. I'm just kidding. I knows it's nose. Now I've got another little present to make here. And that's for little old Elsie, the little old lady who lives down the lane. Well, she lives on her own and she can't get out much, so I want to give her a present to cheer her up this Christmas. And I'm going to give her a cookie jar filled with jammy Dodgers. So I'm going to make it myself from a little jam jar. And there's the lid. Now I'm going to put some Christmas wrapping paper around the jam jar. Make it look all nice and pretty. And then I'm going to stick it with a bit of sellotape. There we go. Now that looks nice, doesn't it? And then I'm going to fill it with jammy Dodgers. Here we go. So, let's see how many we can fit in there. Lots of jammy Dodgers going in. Oh, it's filling up quite nicely. Here we go. Oh, only room for one more. So that means there's one left. Who could have that? Me, with a cup of tea later. So now I'm going to put the lid. Oh! Got dropsy today. I'm going to put the lid back on. And I want to make the lid look really pretty. So I'm going to put some Christmas wrapping paper on the top. And I'm going to put some elastic around the wrapping paper to keep it in place. There we are. And now I'll put a ribbon around it to make it look pretty. Here we go. Tie the ribbon just like that. And put it in a bow. Here we go. There we are. Quite pretty, isn't it? So there we are. Now the next thing I have to do is write a little tag. So lots of love and Merry Christmas to Elsie from Miss Poppy and a big kiss. There we go. And so that's now going to be all ready to go to Elsie. Well, I hope Elsie likes her little present from me, and I hope it cheers her up at Christmas. Oh, you could do that, couldn't you? You could make a present for somebody you think might be alone at Christmas. That'd be a really nice thing to do. Time for another story. Let's see which one we'll read this time. Let me see. Oh, this looks like a good one. It's called When Santa Lost His Ho, Ho, Ho. And it starts, once upon a time, when Christmas was just a few days away and the North Pole was buzzing with activity. The reindeer were practicing their takeoff and the elves were putting the finishing touches to the toys with lots of help from Mrs. Claus. Santa looked a bit tired. "Oh, we need a little break," he said. "How about a song and dance to keep us going?" said Mrs. Claus. So everyone sang and danced and laughed and the elves played music. But something wasn't quite right. Something was missing. Santa was very quiet. "What is it, dear?" asked Mrs. Claus. "Have you lost something?" Well, Santa scratched his head, he cleared his throat and he said, "You could say that." "What is it?" asked the elves. "We'll help you find it." Santa thought for a moment. Everyone waited, and at last he said, "I think I've lost my ho, ho, ho." Well, everyone gasped. "Oh no! Santa has lost his ho, ho, ho! Oh, this is serious. It won't be Christmas without Santa's ho, ho, ho." Mrs. Claus sent Santa straight off to see Dr. Doodles. He'd know what to do. Dr. Doodles prescribed funny movies and lots of jokes. So, Mrs. Claus and the elves rallied round and played funny films and told Santa lots of Christmas jokes. But it didn't work. The most that Santa could manage was a tiny ha-ha and a little teeny-weeny yippee. But no ho, ho, ho. Well, the news was in all the papers. Santa has lost his ho, ho, ho. Reporters and photographers came to the North Pole, to Santa's workshop. They had to see this for themselves. Then the reindeer had an idea. A cup of tea! Santa loves a nice cup of tea with his feet up by a glowing red fire, boots off, toasting his toes. That was sure to make him ho, ho, ho. Well, Santa tried this and he did enjoy it. But still no ho, ho, ho. Now, as we know, Santa reads all of his letters himself. But because he'd been so busy trying to find his ho, 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 the letters had piled up so high that they reached the ceiling. "Oh my," Santa said, "what a lot of letters to read." Mrs. Claus thought that Santa looked tired again, so she sent him off to bed with a hot water bottle, and as soon as his head touched the pillow, he was fast asleep. Then Mrs. Claus and the elves got busy. They opened all the letters, sorted them out and put them into neat piles for Santa to read later. "Look at all these wonderful letters," Mrs. Claus said. "This one has a lovely painting of a snowman with a potato for a nose." Oh, she did think that was funny. And they laughed and laughed and laughed. "And this one has a picture of an elf wearing an Easter bonnet." Well, they laughed and laughed and laughed again. "This one has a Christmas joke at the end. Oh, it's really funny." And then Mrs. Claus had an idea. "Gather all the letters and bring them to the workshop," she said to the elves. "But hurry, Santa will be awake soon." Santa woke from his lovely sleep feeling much better. He He heard giggles coming from the kitchen and he thought, well, it sounds like everyone's having fun. I'll join them later once I've read some of my letters. Oh, your letters are over in the workshop, dear, said Mrs. Claus. We've put them by your favourite chair near the fire. Mrs. Claus and the elves waited in the kitchen as Santa settled down to read his letters. 1 minute passed, then 2. You could hear a snowflake fall. I don't hear a thing, said Mrs. Claus. The plan hasn't worked. Then they all heard it. First, a little giggle, then a small then a great loud laugh, and finally a big booming ho, ho, ho. Everyone heard it. Mrs. Claus and the elves, Rudolph and the other reindeer, the reporters from the newspapers, and all of the people in the village. Hooray! They shouted. Santa has found his ho, ho, ho. And everyone knew that it was the children's letters that did the trick, and that this would be the best Christmas ever. Oh, I do like a happy ending. I think it's time for another cup of tea and a biscuit. What's your favourite biscuit? Mine's a jammy Dodger. I wonder who that could be.
Ah, hello, Miss Poppy. Ho, ho, ho.
Hello, Santa. You come through and I'll get you a chair.
Ah, thank you. Oh.
Santa has pinched my seat.
Oh, a nice comfy chair. Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, I was just telling my friends about how you lost your ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. Oh. Hello, children. Hello. Hello. Give me a wave. Ho, ho, ho. Well, I've just been doing my rounds, Miss Poppy. Collecting letters from boys and girls from all around the world. I get letters from all over Ireland, Scotland and France and Germany and China and even as far away as Australia.
Oh, and Japan?
Yes.
And Argentina?
Yes.
And the Galapagos Islands?
Yes.
And Timbuktu?
Yes, Miss Poppy, as I say, from all around the world. Well, it's thirsty work, Miss Poppy. I could do with a nice cup of tea.
Oh, of course. Here we go, Santa. In your special mug.
Oh.
And no sugar.
Oh, no. I'm sweet enough.
Oh.
Oh, a jammy Dodger. My favorite.
Santa has pinched my jammy Dodger.
Oh. Well, have you been doing anything nice today, Miss Poppy?
Yes, I've been reading Christmas stories.
Oh!
And a Christmas poem. And I even told a Christmas joke.
Oh, I love Christmas jokes. Do you want to hear my favorite Christmas joke? How do snowmen get around town?
Oh, I'm sorry, Santa. I've already told that one.
Ah.
Do you have a second favourite Christmas joke?
Second. Ah, yes. What do you call a reindeer who wears earmuffs?
I don't know. What do you call a reindeer who wears earmuffs?
Anything you want. He can't hear you. Oh, I make myself laugh sometimes. Well, I'd better be off, Miss Poppy. Lots of work for me and the elves to do before Christmas. And lots of letters to read from all the boys and girls. And I like to read every one myself. Well, thanks for the tea, Miss Poppy.
Oh, and the jammy dodger. Well, bye-bye, Santa. Oh, I nearly forgot. I got a present for the reindeer.
Oh, thank you, Miss Poppy. Ah, carrots. How original. Bye-bye, Miss Poppy. Bye-bye, boys and girls. Bye-bye, and Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye, Santa.
Bye-bye, Miss Poppy.
Bye. Oh, wasn't that exciting? Santa popping in for tea. Oh, in all the excitement, I forgot to write my own letter to Santa. Well, I'd better do it now. With another cup of tea, of course. I'll go and boil the kettle. And let's have some Christmas music. Laughing as we go, talking all the way. And don't forget to write your letters to Santa. He'll be waiting for them. Well, bye-bye, everyone, and Merry Christmas!